Oh, hey. Oh, what am I playing? I'm trying to play some Sonic because I'm just in the mood and to have some fun, you know? Did you know they made a movie? Sonic. Everyone knows about Sonic, a hedgehog who is blue, fighting a crazy man who makes and turns animals into robots, who was also designed after Theodore Roosevelt. Sonic was even my first intro to gaming, with my family still having a SEGA Genesis in the early mid-2000s. Then I got a GameCube, and man, I was able to play some Peak. Good times. Back to Sonic. The Sonic franchise has always fascinated me, and not only just the games.
Food.
The game's lore, the fan base, the art, and yes, again, the fan base.
I hate when people underestimate my fastness. I'm fast. I'm so fast.
God damn it!
But what also fascinates me is that I have never seen a franchise flounder like a fish and still be relevant. The horrors of these two games have done irreparable damage to the game series. Sonic's games in the mid-2000s and early 2010s were not doing great. One minute you get a Sonic Generations, and then the next you get Sonic Lost Worlds, or a Sonic Forces. Sorry Sega, no matter how many villains you bring back, I don't think a lot of people will care about Infinite. To be honest, the only thing that was keeping the series alive were the fans and other creators giving it life support.
Breathe, darn you!
Even that had some very bad lasting side effects from some fans in the Sonic fandom.
Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the greatest and most attractive characters ever thought up. He can run at sound speed, take out enemies in a flash, and best of all, he's blue-colored and knows how to handle the females.
No longer did people see Sonic as the too-cool-for-school rival to Nintendo's mascot Mario. He was now something worse. He was considered lame, uncool, cringe even. Some may say bad. Some people even found it embarrassing to even be playing or like Sonic. Because we all know real men play real games, like an Italian plumber who stumps on giant turtle dragons, who steals their girlfriend every day, that also rules a kingdom full of mushroom people who sound like nails on a chalkboard. Oh, I like Mario, by the way. I just want to point out the double standard. Even the studio Sega barely even cared about the mascot that brought them so much identity. He was no longer the top dog at Sega and was separated into another studio called Sonic Team. Instead, they focus on other franchises like Yakuza or Total War. Sure, there was Mania, but that was not even created by Sonic Team or Sega. It was created by fans. Meanwhile, the plumber in his ivory tower, full of coins, had won, and Sonic was on his last legs in the Olympic Games. But then, some exec at SEGA HQ had an idea. Hey, let's make a Sonic movie. So they did. Sure, this is not Sega's first rodeo into making stuff for Sonic. You had the cartoons, the comics, that varied in quality. If you stare at the specific cover of the Sonic comic, you will hear the screams. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie was in something people like to call development hell, with many different pitches trying to make a movie about the blue blur. Also, I refuse to say that ever again. All of them being very interesting, strange, and just downright bizarre. When I look back at these, it makes me wonder what would happen if these movies actually existed, because some of them are really, really weird. One of those pitches would be created by SEGA themselves in 1993. And this pitch for a movie for Sonic would be very different. This would be an origin story for Sonic as a character. This would be a meta story about a children's book writer who had a husband who flew planes in the Air Force, who wore an aviator jacket with a hedgehog on the back, who also had the nickname Hedgehog, and because he was the first person to break the sound barrier. Years later, he would die, and then his wife would make a character after him, a hedgehog, that she would name Sonic. You still with me? Okay, good, because it's gonna get weirder from here. Then more time would pass, and their daughter Meg would get his old aviator jacket back. Like I said earlier, there would be a hedgehog on the back of the jacket. But, surprisingly, this would be the original Sonic logo on there. Anytime Meg decides to wear the jacket, it gives her comfort when she wears it, until she would get into an airshow accident that was similar to how her father died. She was in the audience, and the plane crashed. With plane parts, fire, and debris everywhere. She is then knocked out. Then she comes to, with chaos everywhere, until she sees Sonic the Hedgehog, but then he slaps her.
Barry, you can't just...
Oh, are you alright? How did you...
Barry!
No, like seriously, that's what it's written down. Like, when she first sees him, he slaps her. Then, it is revealed that her father was reincarnated as Sonic the Hedgehog, a fate worse than death. This was originally created by the official SEGA team, and yes, it was for a movie. SEGA, for some strange reason, really wanted this type of movie to be filmed, no questions asked. If you wanted to make something like Eggman Fight Sonic, no, you can't do that. You want to make a movie about what's based on the game? No. We know what we're doing. Yeah, you can see why the Sonic movie took so long to make. Man, people want to go to alternate universes where, like, I don't know, JFK lived. No. I want to go into a universe where this movie happened. I want to see it. Disappointed children and all. Also makes me wonder what else could have been in the movie. Was Tails a mechanic and a friend to Sonic? Was Eggman a weapon of mass destruction? I gotta know! Sadly, all of this would not be made. However, we would then get another movie pitch, a few years later. That pitch for a Sonic movie would be made by Ben Hurst. Oh, I'm sorry, a pitch hijacked by Ken Penders. Penders' story as a person in the Sonic community would take a while, so I'll give you the short version. For those who don't know who he is, Ken Penders is one of the comic artists and writers for Archie Comics, and he has a major role in making stories for the Sonic comics at Archie, and oh boy, did this man make some stories. Mostly specifically for Knuckles. Like how Knuckles was a genetic freak created by his own father, then his father gaslit him thinking that he was the only kind of him left, then he pretended to die in a wall of fire. Also, Knuckles married his own cousin and had a kid with him. What did you mean by this, Ken? But in 2002, Ben Hurst would go to SEGA HQ to pitch a Sonic movie for an old Sonic TV show that he worked on in the early 90s. Then Ken Penders would come to Ben to help him give a movie pitch to SEGA. Except, Penders didn't do that. He would hijack Ben's idea to pitch his very own movie. That movie would be called Sonic Armageddon, which you can see on YouTube in glorious 240p. How was that pitch Penders wanted to give the execs at SEGA?
Uncle Chuck! Uncle Chuck! Whoa! This is way past cool!
Wow, I wonder why they rejected it. As you can tell, it was never made, but I wonder what it must have been like being in that room full of SEGA executives at that time. Staring at the screen as Penders shows you all the stuff he made, and you wonder, what the fuck is happening? But things, as I said, would fall through. I can't imagine why. Ken Penders' story does not stop here though, with lawsuits and him somehow legally getting a lot of characters from Sega, and him making his own series with it. With a mild success. Ken Penders' story ends here. Now we need to go further into the future, where a pitch for a Sonic movie would in a way go through. A decade later, there would be no new news about a Sonic movie. But in June 2014, Sony Pictures would announce that they would be making a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie. This would be a trilogy of movies that they wanted to release a Sonic movie each year. Man, that's just insane. Imagine you walked out of a theater and you see a teaser poster for the next movie, but you already saw the sequel for that movie. It's very strange. Thinking about it, the quality of all the movies would just get worse and worse. Well, it's not the first time I've seen a franchise do that. The movie's script would be written by two comedy writers, Evan Susser and Van. I refuse to say that last name. Then it would be announced that Tim Miller would join the project. You know, Tim Miller, as the director of the first Deadpool movie, and also the executive producer of Borderlands. But also they announced that Jeff Fowler would be a director for the movie. Jeff Fowler is not new to video games. He's best known for making the opening for a Pacific Sonic game at the start of his career in animation, and that game would be called Shadow the Hedgehog. Yes, in a way, Jeff Fowler would come all the way back around to the Blue Hedgehog. I think it's kind of interesting that this man's career is connected to Sonic in a way, and later on, for a lot of people, for the better. There would also be news that the studio making the film was Blur Studios. They had also worked on Sonic animations before, and you probably have seen it. Otherwise, everything seems to be in good hands. And then nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then things were starting to get weird. Sony had given up the rights to make a Sonic movie, and they probably saw the last game not doing too well and they backed out. But this is where Paramount would come in, and they would get the rights to make their very own live-action Sonic movie. Then on February 2018, it would be announced that the Sonic movie would be released next year in 2019. Not only that, the original team for the Sony version of the film was here to stay. Sonic fans all over the internet were excited to finally see the Blue Hedgehog finally being on the big screen. Fans were finally being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and Sonic would finally come back, being popular again as he was back in the 90s. As the notorious forgotten 90s mascot Bubsy would say, "What could possibly go wrong?" Film leaks. Everyone's seen one at some point. You're online on your favorite social media platform, and then BAM! You see a leak for a film you're going to see. And let's just say that this film is no different. There would be leaks, and those leaks would be about how Sonic would look in the movie. And a lot of people, you could say, were excited, and what they got was this. What? Sonic's design is something special, right next to Mario for how iconic it is. Simple, yet original at the same time. Created by Yuji Naka and Nato Oshima, this design, to Sonic fans, called the classic version, would be loved by fans all over the world, until they changed it. And if you know Sonic fans, they do not like change at all.
Here we go. You ready for this, buddy? We waited over, 16, 17 years for this? It's your long-awaited comeback, yay! Here we go! Sonic the Hedgehog 4! Oh, there's a motorbug!
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now.
But modern Sonic would be the one that we all know today as the main version of Sonic. Sure, it's not like the classic version, and some people prefer that older classic version, but when you think of Sonic, you most likely think of this version the most. All the good and the bad that comes with it, also the horrors. Then they tried to change it again, with a more updated version, changing a few things like the body shape and giving him blue arms.
Don't call anybody.
Sonic Boom did not do too well, so they mostly have stuck with modern Sonic from here on out. After all the controversy of Sonic's design over the years, it would be Paramount's turn, and they would tease a new design for Sonic for the movie. Most people were concerned, but then, before the Sonic movie trailer was even out, there was a leak of the new movie design, and you all most likely know what happened after that. The trailer came out, and nobody liked it.
Gotta go fast.
No!
Horrified.
Hang on, I got a couple more. Here's one. It's a good one. Here's just this. This is just someone just tweeted that to me. Just that.
Whenever I see anyone talk about the Sonic movie or any other Sonic movies, this design comes up into the conversation at least once. And it was everywhere. You could not escape the horrors that was this version of Sonic. Ugly Sonic, the OG movie version, the Man-Hog, or whatever you want to call it. Here's the thing. This was not the original design that was planned for the movie, and that would be caused by something a lot of people do not like. Studio interference. The two words that many people hear and say, oh, that explains a lot. The studio that is messing around with a creator's vision to release a product. Then everyone starts to realize that they have no idea what they're doing, and the Titanic has hit the metaphorical iceberg of cash. Sometimes it can work, sometimes, but most of the time it's really bad, and the Sonic movie was not safe from this either. I mean, look at the trailer. He doesn't look like Sonic. He looks like a very small, hairy blue man thing. Fans made a better version of a live-action Sonic. I mean, come on. Every fandom has one of those weird designs of a character. Mario fans got the live-action Goombas.
Monkey.
Godzilla fans got the iguana that likes fish, and Matthew Broderick.
That's a lot of fish.
And now Sonic fans have the Man-Hog. Looking back at people complaining about the older designs from the past games, they were more simpler times. They had no idea what was coming. Sonic fans did not need to worry about the eyes, the arm color, or even the voice. They got the full Uncanny Valley package. This was a disaster, just like that time when Sonic was at the 1993 Macy's Thanksgiving Parade.
10:30, a first-time balloon, the 64-foot-tall Sonic the Hedgehog, was swept into a street lamp at 58th Broad.
But I have always wondered what happened behind the production of this movie that made this design, and why did it become that? Well, a now deleted interview from one of the artists on the movie, Max Schneider, would explain on what happened. At the very beginning of production, Paramount was actually fully on board using an older classic version of Sonic's original design, but they scrapped it for more of a realistic approach for Sonic, a design that could be able to fit better with a live-action setting. Well, that failed, but the studio's reasoning for this would be inspired by two films. Transformers and Ninja Turtles by Michael Bay.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.
But here's the thing. Paramount knew this would make fans dislike it. Yes, they knew all along that this would cause a lot of fans to be very angry. But the execs at Paramount were like, the general public would like this. They liked how Ninja Turtles and Transformer were like. Except they forgot that this was a very slow burn in accepting these designs, because that's not how I remember it.
Good. Good. We can. God damn it! So close.
At least with the Ninja Turtles movies, if I remember correctly, everybody was making fun of it. With Transformers, that's a different story. They're robots, you could take some liberty with some of the characters. And also, they're giant alien robots that are able to transform into vehicles, robot dinosaurs, or whatever this is. Even back then, fans hated it. The Sonic design is just strange and, well, ugly. But there was a key reasoning as to why Paramount wanted this design to be changed. And that key difference was, it was best to change it so Sonic wouldn't look out of place with real humans. Because when I think of realism, I think of a small blue hedgehog man who wants to stop an evil scientist who turns animals into robots.
Meow?
I really have no idea why they thought this was a good idea, but if the general public doesn't care, why should they? Well, people did talk about it. A lot more than they think.
I've seen this one.
Now with all the backlash, Paramount, from not just the fans, but with, well, everyone at Paramount was in full panic. But surprising everybody, they decided to delay the movie to give Sonic a new redesign. To a lot of people, this was very unexpected.
Is that real? Is this real? I need to know.
This is something not a lot of people have heard a studio doing before. In fact, it's so weird and out of place, some people to this day still think that all of this was a publicity stunt for the film. Well, is it? No. I don't know why, but many people to this day still say all of this was created as a marketing stunt for the film. And this is just not true. There is pictures out there of the toys and merchandise that are promoting the movie with the original version. Not to mention the behind-the-scenes photos of the realistic Sonic model. He is smiling because he has offended many people somewhere around the world. I don't know why people are still insistent that Paramount wanted to waste their own money on this, to delay a movie for 5 months to redesign it. It just doesn't make any sense. During that time, there would be little teases about the new redesign and how people were making fun of it. Then it was revealed. After months, the redesign was shown to the public, and many people were happy with it. From what I have read, Paramount and SEGA of America went back to the drawing board for the redesign. SEGA of America decided to get Tyson Hesse to create a new redesign of a live-action version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Combining both elements of the movie version and the modern version, fuse them together to create a new movie Sonic that a lot of people now see and say, yeah, that's Sonic. Looking back at all this and seeing what we have now, it makes me wonder, what would have happened if this design stayed and it was still successful? Sometimes it's best for things to be left forgotten and never talked about ever again. Now, with the movie out, looking back at it, the movie itself is just, well, okay. Looking at the other movies that would come out later, the original is just, well, fine. That's all I can say about this. It's just okay. I had an entire summary about the movie ready to go, and well, I just kind of realized, I think the backstory of the movie is more interesting than the movie itself. Again, it's not bad, it's just, well, you know, it's not Sonic 2, definitely not like Sonic 3, but it's kind of a stepping stone to where we would get on into the future. Now, not to undermine this movie, it did break a lot of records, and speaking of which, when this movie came out, it was a smash hit and broke a lot of records for video game movies. Some even call it the best video game movie ever made. Then COVID happened. But if it kept going, it probably would have broken even higher records. Then this movie would start a whole new trend of video game movies, and also a beginning of a franchise, reaching up to the billions. Okay, that's definitely a lot of doubloons. Even these sequels would break records themselves, even outdoing the original, but these would do something even more important. It would do something that would not happen for a really long time. People were talking about Sonic again. Looking back how things were before, people saying Sonic was never good, or people saying that Sonic was bad, or he never had any good games, or he was never a major part in gaming history. It looks like a different world, and it also makes me kind of laugh as well looking at older Sonic content.
Any info on a new Sonic game today? Where the fuck is my 3D Sonic 1? I'm the fucking here!
Even the games themselves have the movies to thank, because I don't think these would happen or even be successful if the movie was a total failure. Again, looking back at the first movie itself, it's okay, fine. Compared to the others that would be made later on, it's alright. To video game standards, this is finding an oasis in the endless sea of garbage. Later on, the sequels would get rid of all the realistic live-action elements and start embracing the more video game elements that it originally did not want to do. And I have to say that was a really good call. The results from this have been very groundbreaking. Well, it's been a very long road for this weird hedgehog creature. From planes exploding that lead to your dad being reincarnated as a blue hedgehog creature, to hijacking ideas with your own ideas that are not better, and an off-putting hedgehog man creature that would be so bad it united the internet to say,
"That's no good."
Sonic has come a long way, hasn't he? It's just nice to see a video game franchise that got me into gaming hit the big leagues once again. Now I gotta get fast out of here. No, that's terrible. Forget what I said. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.